Everyone thinks smart people just have more information, more facts, more answers, more solutions. But that's not true at all. The real difference isn't what smart people have. It's how they think, how they handle problems, how they respond to situations that overwhelm everyone else. Here's what psychology actually says. 95% of our decisions are emotionally driven. That's from Harvard Business Review. And emotional intelligence predicts 58% of job performance, more than IQ or technical skill combined. You don't need a perfect memory. You don't need top grades. You just need to think the way smart people think. Today, I'll show you 8 psychology-backed ways smart people use their minds differently. They're grounded in decades of behavioral science, but most people never learn them. And once you start using them, you'll notice changes almost immediately. Let's get straight into it. Number 1. They don't fight to be right. Most people turn disagreements into battles. They argue, get emotional, and try to prove the other person wrong. But here's what neuroscience tells us. When someone feels attacked, their brain enters a defensive state called an amygdala hijack. Logic shuts down. Persuasion becomes impossible. You literally cannot change someone's mind when they feel threatened. Smart people do the opposite. Instead of fighting, they ask real questions. Not sarcastic ones meant to embarrass, genuine ones. Things like, help me understand why you think that. What made you feel that way? This mirrors a technique called motivational interviewing, developed by psychologist William Miller, which consistently outperforms debate at actually changing minds. And here's the research to back it up. Harvard Business School professor Amy Edmondson found that teams where people feel heard, not judged, are 3.8 times more likely to be high-performing. The same principle works in every conversation you have. When you stop arguing and start asking, people open up. They don't feel attacked. They share more. That's when real conversations happen. That's when minds actually change. Smart people know this secret. You can't force someone to agree with you, but you can make them feel heard. And when people feel heard, they often change their own minds. Number 2. They see the bigger picture. Most people obsess over small setbacks. They fail one test and decide they're stupid. They get rejected once and think they're worthless. Psychologists have a name for this: catastrophizing, a cognitive distortion where your brain treats a small negative event as permanent, pervasive, and personal. It's one of the most common patterns behind anxiety and depression. Smart people zoom out. They practice what researcher Martin Seligman calls a healthy explanatory style, understanding setbacks as temporary, specific, and changeable. Seligman spent 40 years studying this. His conclusion: realistic optimism directly predicts performance, health, and even lifespan. They don't see one bad test. They see a pattern. Maybe they need a new study method, more rest, extra support. They don't see rejection as proof they're not good enough. They see it as information. What can I learn? What can I try differently next time? Research on cognitive reappraisal, the ability to reframe how you interpret a situation, shows it's one of the strongest predictors of emotional resilience. People who practice it show measurably lower cortisol levels and higher long-term well-being. When you zoom out, problems stop feeling like disasters. They start feeling like data points in a larger pattern. And patterns can be changed. Number 3. They only worry about what they can control. This one is powerful. Most people waste enormous energy stressing about things they can't control: what others think of them, the weather, their boss's mood, what might go wrong next week. Psychology has a name for this orientation: an external locus of control, a concept introduced by psychologist Julian Rotter in 1954. Research consistently shows people with this mindset experience significantly higher anxiety, helplessness, and burnout. Smart people develop an internal locus of control. They follow a simple rule: if I can't control it, I don't stress about it. They can't control the rain, but they can carry an umbrella. They can't control opinions, but they can control how they behave. They can't control the outcome, but they can control their effort. Albert Bandura's research at Stanford on self-efficacy found that people who believe their actions make a difference are dramatically more persistent, set higher goals, and recover faster from failure. This belief, not talent, not intelligence, is the single biggest driver of long-term success across 40 years of research. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control. Modern psychologists call it self-efficacy. Either way, the science is clear. When you stop worrying about everything, You finally have the mental clarity and the power to fix what actually matters. Number 4. They use silence as a tool. Most people are deeply uncomfortable with silence. The moment a conversation pauses, they rush to fill the gap. They speak without thinking, just to avoid the quiet. Psychologists call this anxiety-driven verbal filler. It signals nervousness and reduces your perceived authority and credibility. Smart people are comfortable with silence because they understand what it signals: confidence, composure, and depth. Research in negotiation psychology shows that the person who speaks less and pauses more deliberately is consistently perceived as more powerful and credible. Columbia Business School found that negotiators who used deliberate silence, pausing before key responses, were rated as more competent and achieved significantly better outcomes. The silence creates cognitive pressure that makes the other person feel compelled to fill it, often revealing far more than they intended. This also connects to active listening, one of the most validated communication skills in psychology. People who listen without interrupting are consistently rated as more intelligent and trustworthy by those they speak with. Quiet people don't seem smarter because they know more. They seem smarter because they choose their words carefully. Try this. The next time someone asks you a question, pause for 3 seconds before answering. You'll be amazed at how much stronger your response becomes. Number 5. They pause instead of reacting. This might be the most valuable habit of all. Most people react instantly. Someone cuts them off in traffic, they explode. Someone says something rude, they snap back. This is what Daniel Goleman, the psychologist who popularized emotional intelligence, calls the amygdala hijack. An emotional trigger bypasses rational thought entirely. Your body responds before your brain can think. You say things you regret. You make decisions you later undo. Smart people pause. And they pause because they understand the neuroscience. A 4 to 6 second pause is enough for the prefrontal cortex, your rational brain, to come back online. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, described it this way: between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose. That space is where your intelligence actually lives. Daniel Goleman's research found that emotional intelligence accounts for 58% of performance across all types of jobs, more than technical skills or IQ combined. And self-regulation, the ability to pause instead of react, is the single most powerful predictor of leadership effectiveness. Here's the best part. Unlike IQ, emotional intelligence can be trained at any age. The person who stays calm while everyone else loses control, that person has power. That person makes better decisions. That person leads. Habit 6. They embrace being wrong. Most people protect their ego at the cost of their growth. Smart people actively seek out information that challenges their beliefs. Psychologists call this intellectual humility, and research by Peter Samuelson at UC Berkeley shows that intellectually humble people score higher on both academic performance and the quality of their relationships. They treat being wrong not as failure, but as a navigation update. The next time you're proven wrong, try saying, "That's interesting, I hadn't considered that." That single shift signals confidence, not weakness, because only people who are truly secure in themselves can afford to be wrong. Habit 7. They think in second-order effects. Most people think about immediate consequences. Smart people ask, "And then what?" This is called second-order thinking. Before acting, they trace consequences 2 or 3 steps ahead, catching problems that others miss entirely until it's too late. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for projecting into the future, is significantly more active in high performers during decision-making. And research shows this capacity gets stronger with deliberate practice. Before your next big decision, ask yourself 3 times, "And then what?" You'll be surprised what you find. Habit 8. They protect their cognitive energy. Decision fatigue is real. Psychologist Roy Baumeister's research on ego depletion shows that willpower and cognitive quality decline with every single decision you make throughout the day. Your brain has a finite mental budget, and most people spend it on the wrong things. Judge Shai Danziger's famous study found that favorable court decisions dropped from 65% to nearly 0 over the course of a day, before resetting after breaks. The judges weren't biased. They were mentally depleted. Smart people guard their mental energy. They simplify routine choices. They set boundaries early. They do their hardest thinking first, when the prefrontal cortex is at peak capacity. Protect your energy like money. Because in terms of cognitive performance, it is. Here's the big takeaway. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You don't need to know everything. You don't need perfect grades or a high IQ. The science is unanimous. Emotional intelligence, a growth mindset, self-regulation, and deliberate thinking are all trainable. None of this requires talent. It requires awareness and intentional practice. Most people won't do these things. They'll keep arguing, worrying, reacting, and letting biases run unchecked. But if you practice even one of these habits this week, something shifts. You'll start seeing solutions where others see problems. You'll stay calm when others panic. You'll make better choices because you're thinking, not reacting. People will start asking you, asterisk, how do you stay so calm under pressure? Asterisk. And the answer will be simple. You chose to think differently. Before you go, pick one habit from today. Just one. Practice it every day this week. If this video helped you, give it a like so others can find it too. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. And comment below which habit you're starting with. I read every single comment. You don't have to change everything overnight. Just start thinking differently, one habit at a time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.